Hey everybody, it's Mark again, and I hope that you could see this because it's a fairly big clock. A friend of mine bought this clock. It's a Pennsylvania House Special Edition, made in USA. It has a Franz Hermel movement in it. He bought it at an auction. He paid around $6 or $7 for it. Westminster chimes. The problem with this clock is it'll tick. It will not strike the hours. This is your time. This is your chimes, and this is your hours. When you try to wind up the hours, it's not winding. The click is not catching, or the spring is broken. So I'm going to take this clock apart and try to figure out what's going on. You got to take off the hands first by unscrewing the nut. The minute hand will pull straight off. The hour hand will pull straight off. And now I have to I'm going to take the back cover off here. Which will allow me access to the movement. Here's my parts tray. There's just 6 screws, I believe, holding this back cover on. My friend, they have a Seikosha clock that they bought at the auction, and I think they paid like $5 for it. It's a nice clock. Back cover's off, and then I'll have access to the movement, which there are 8 screws. Franz Hermel movement. Don't quote me on this. I think it was made in 1973. Could have been 1982. Before I go any further, I'm going to take the suspension spring off, because I always tear up these suspension springs. They were designed so you break them and have to order more. And if you order this suspension spring through Time Savers, there's oil all over the suspension spring. It's like $5. And it seems like every time I work on one of these clocks, I'm tearing up the suspension spring. So now I'm going to take out these 6 screws to take the movement out. And I should get out my Dremel and it'll be a lot faster. most of my screwdrivers are magnetic, and they're magnetic for a reason. That way I don't have to go searching for screws. And I said this before and I'll say it again. If you're working on pocket watches, you don't want magnetic screwdrivers. Because the magnetic screwdriver will cause the parts to be magnetic, and that will stop your pocket watch because they're so small. With a clock, you would have to hairspring escapements. If they're made out of metal, you wouldn't want to put your magnetic screwdriver on a hairspring escapement too long, because that might stop the clock. Let me get the case out of the way so I can have some room. Like I said, it's this one right here that is not catching. It looks like the click is catching. I bet you anything the center spring has came open, which is preventing this from being able to catch, or the spring is broken. Using my letdown key, I'm going to let down the power on all the other springs. Now I do have a official letdown key, but it's not big enough, and I don't know where it's at the moment. It's over my tools somewhere. But this is how I learnt back in 1999, a VHS tape that I bought. The guy who was the instruction on the VHS tape: take a wooden dowel, take a saw, cut a slot in it. And then I would suggest also that you drill a hole in it in case your key has got a point on the end of it. Let me see if I can find you a key like that. Anyway, if your key's got a point on the end of it, it'll fit in the hole that you drilled into the wooden dowel. So, you want to be extremely slow, cautious when you're doing this, because if you watched a video I did where I was working on a Asian clock, the key didn't fit quite in my dowel, and it was kind of wobbly. People were kind of scared when they watched the video. But like I said, this one over here, it's not catching whatsoever. So I'm going to I don't think I could take this out. Some clocks yeah, this one you could take out also. I took the click off, pulled the center arbor out, the winding arbor, and which allowed me to pull the barrel spring out. And so what I'm going to do is grab my piece of wood, and I'm going to get the center cap off. Now there is a tool that you can purchase, and that's what this thing is designed for. However, from my experience, if your movement has not been serviced as often as it should be, when you go to pry this open, it's going to bend this barrel cap. And so I've done that before. In the VHS video I bought, this is the simplest way to open up this barrel cap. Grab a piece of scrap wood, grab the barrel in your hand, and it's off. The spring is broken, and that's why it's not catching. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this spring out of here, and I'm going to heat up this spring to take the hardness away. I'm going to heat it up and let it cool slowly, and that will soften up the metal. And then I'm going to punch and drill a hole. That way this, because it's just 2 or 3 inches of this spring that will not be used. So I'm going to drill a hole in the end of the spring, enough to allow the catch that's on this center arbor here. And I need to get on a pair of gloves so I can pull this off without cutting my fingers. So stand by. I do use safety equipment when I feel the need for it. Here's a glove that I'm going to hold this spring with, and then I'm going to take my pliers and try to get the center arbor off. There we go. Didn't cut my hands. So as I was saying, I'm going to drill a hole. The catch is still there, as you could see. Hopefully you could see. The catch is still on the center arbor, so I'm going to drill a hole the diameter of this center arbor into this spring, and use that hole to catch the spring. This is a pretty wide spring, and they normally come out easier than that. So I'm going to grab my screwdriver that has a notch on it to pull the spring out, hopefully. And once you start getting it to come out, you can easily get the rest of it out. typically easily get the rest of it out. The end of the spring is catching onto the tab in the barrel, doing its job. So anyway, I'm going to heat this spring up and drill a hole, and we'll get back to you. So stand by. The movement itself looks extremely clean. The pivots, there's no dirt in the pivots. This thing was probably just serviced, and unfortunately springs break even after you service them. Because the spring broke, the grease inside the spring caused the pinion gears to get a little dirty. So I'm going to take a toothpick and I'm going to clean out some of these pinion gears with the grease that's on them. I think I could, and you know, again, what I do and what you do is totally up to you. I'm just showing you what I do. And so I'm not going to take this movement apart. I'm just going to clean up these pinion gears with the grease that got in them from that spring breaking. You could tell it's fresh grease, and typically when a spring breaks, you get some damage, and I'm not seeing any damage because that power has to go somewhere. But fortunately, in this case, I'm not seeing any damage, and so I'm just going to clean off the excess grease that's in these pinion gears, and I'm going to drill another hole in that spring. And then after I got the hole drilled, I have to heat the spring back up and quench the spring to make it hard again, so it does its function. And I always do that on top of my deep freeze. That way I'm not gonna, if you were to do it on your kitchen table, it's made of wood, you're probably gonna start a fire. So I always do it on top of my deep freeze. And I don't know whether y'all are having this issue this year or not, but I have a bunch of gnats in my house. And I went to the dollar store yesterday while I was in Pericle with my daughter, and there was a lady at the dollar store doing the same thing I was doing, because she has a bunch of gnats in her house. She says this is the only year that she's seen gnats in her house, and I have gnats in my house. And I went out and I bought the defoggers. The defoggers doesn't say that it's for gnats, but I bought them anyway, and I used them in my house to kill off all other bugs. But I also bought some outdoor cutter and sprayed in my bedroom here, because it says it will kill gnats. There's a homemade recipe consisting of apple cider vinegar, dish soap, sugar, and water. You put it in a bowl. The sugar attracts the gnats. I've killed several gnats. Inside this bowl, you'll see a bunch of gnats that are dead. Probably close to 75. But I still got gnats crawling around my bedroom. And so I'm going to have to get some apple cider vinegar and water in a spray bottle and spray around my room. I've done that a few times, but if y'all have a better solution other than hiring an exterminator, I don't allow people that I don't know to come into my house because of my collection. Y'all, for the most part, don't know where I live. I could show you everything, and for the most part, y'all don't know where I live. And so, I do have a few guns in my house. So if you break into my house, prepare to meet your maker. So anyway, I'm going to finish cleaning. I got most of them already done. I'm going to finish cleaning this up with some toothpicks. And then I drill a hole in the spring, harden the spring, put it back together, and hopefully that will get this clock going. Well, I tried it. Went to put the arbor in. It broke the spring. I think I'm just going to order a spring for this clock. And so sometimes it's easier just to order a spring than to try to repair one. I've already taken about 5 or 6 inches off of this thing. So with it being brittle like it was, it broke. I think I'm just going to order a spring. So I have repaired them in the past, but you know, there comes a time when you just got to say enough is enough, time to order a spring. So anyway, the way you go about ordering a spring is you're going to need the width of the spring, the thickness of the spring, and the length of the spring. And then you just order a barrel spring versus a loop spring, which would be for like an antique American clock. Just order a barrel spring. Again, you're going to need the width of the spring, the thickness of the spring, and the length of the spring. So I hope y'all like this video anyway. I think I'm going to go ahead and post it just to show you that sometimes even I give up and know when to quit and order a part versus trying to repair the part. I like I said, I drilled 2 different holes. First hole broke on me. Second hole was fine until I put the barrel arbor in, and I must not have got the temper right, or there was a stress crack in the spring. I'm ordering a spring. Anyway, may God bless each and every one of you, and have a great day.